must kill all of you.
Bender, wake up!
I was having the most wonderful dream. I think you were in it.
In Greek mythology, Zeus had commissioned Hephaestus, the god of smiths and masonry, to create a bronze automaton to protect the island of Crete. The name of this creature, if you could call it that, was Talos. Talos was an intelligent artificial construct that blurred the line between man and machine. While he was programmed, if you could call it that, to protect the Cretans, the people of Crete, he did so by posing an immense threat to outsiders. He possessed superhuman strength, being able to hurl boulders at enemy ships. When Jason and the Argonauts landed on Crete, they teamed up with the sorceress Medea to destroy the machine man. Medea's plan was to take advantage of the machine's emotions and desires. She convinced Talos that he could become immortal if she were to remove a bolt from his ankle, and when that bolt was removed, his inner machinery, as well as artificial intelligence, malfunctioned. The story of Talos shows us that human fears of artificial inorganic intelligence is nothing new. It is a story of the folly of minds, both organic and inorganic. That constructed minds often behave in ways that are different than the intentions of their creators. While ChatGPT and slop videos of Will Smith eating spaghetti were not found on the island of Crete during ancient times, simple self-operating machines have existed for much longer than the 20th century, or 21st century for that matter. An automaton is a machine that can operate at least part of the time without the mind or muscle of organic life, namely humans. Before the Industrial Revolution, automatons were obviously very basic and tended to be more ornamental than practical. Here is a bell striker, oftentimes found atop churches and clock towers in France and nearby countries. They are usually metal figurines which strike a bell in sync with the clock during certain times of the day. A far more well-known example are cuckoo clocks. I like cuckoo clocks. If I was an 80-year-old white grandma, I'd definitely have one in my house. But alas, I am not an 80-year-old white grandma, and these birds are not some form of artificial intelligence. In fact, they're mindless. Too mindless to even be called dumb. We don't need to fear a robotic uprising at the hands of bird figurines sold at Swiss souvenir stores. But as the time depicted on these clocks moved on, the fears of a future Talos have been reignited. As usual, this was prompted by the military. You can always expect scientific and technological advancement when people are trying to stab each other with pointy things and create things that go boom. Speaking of pointy things and things that go boom, torpedoes, which could be remotely controlled through propellers and radio waves, were invented during the early 20th century. In keeping with the theme of military interests fueling innovation, one of the first robots, Eric, was built by a World War I veteran by the name of William Richards and his colleague Alan Reffell, who was an aeronautical engineer. Eric became a superstar, going on tour, but again, this was more of a novelty than an entity which could clean your house, produce slop videos, or kill you. However, in spite of all of his lack of functionality, at least any functionality that would be utilized, he was called a, quote, man without a soul. This brings up all sorts of complicated questions about the difference between a mind and a soul. Do people even have souls? Is a line between organic life created through evolution on one side and artificial intelligence created by an advanced organic life form using materials permeable? This takes us to the debate between strong and weak AI. At our current state, we are already familiar with weak AI. It performs the tasks it is programmed to do remarkably well, but lacks anything close to the consciousness, let alone sentience, we have, or even the centralized nervous system of your typical animal. Weak AI is impressive in its own right. In a similar way, in that plants are impressive in their reaction to stimuli and engaging in functions necessary for survival in spite of the fact that they can't really think. Strong AI, if possible, would be able to experience subjective consciousness. To this day, we really don't have an answer if strong AI is possible, or for that matter, if what we think is weak AI is actually strong AI. But if there is a chance it exists or it will exist, then it will pose a significant threat in certain instances. On the other hand, artificial superintelligence would greatly surpass any of our cognitive abilities, even that of your typical strong AI. We oftentimes think of intelligence and IQ in strictly human terms. The average person has an IQ of 100. Your typical civil engineer will have an IQ in a higher percentile. The theoretical physicist Peter Higgs has an IQ ranging somewhere between 150 to 170. Steve-O from the Jackass movies probably has an IQ below 90.
Order up! Who Cocktail Supreme!
Which is still better than most Twitter users. But there are further extremes. Deer are very dumb as seen through dashcam footage. What if there's a form of artificial intelligence that made Peter Higgs look like a deer in comparison? Or even Steve-O? Today, most artificial intelligence is designed to complete specific tasks. Yes, ChatGPT is impressive, but at the end of the day, it operates as a writer. Self-driving cars drive. ChatGPT can't get behind the steering wheel, and a self-driving car won't help you cheat on an essay assignment. Same goes for robotics. Humanoid robots depicted in science fiction look cool, but it doesn't really make sense for most tasks. Hence why robo-vacuums look like moving floor discs rather than the cleaning lady from the Jetsons. A cleaning lady performs a multitude of tasks that don't really require that much in terms of human skill, but do possess multiple challenges in terms of robotics and automation, as each simple human skill would be very difficult to implement as a robot in totality. Instead, you would have a window cleaning robot, a vacuuming robot, and a robot that takes out your garbage. One complaint about our advances in AI is that we sought machines to clean our homes while we read creative stories, not machines that write creative stories while we throw away the used toilet paper from the garbage can. But how we manage our daily tasks might be the least of our concerns. The machine or AI, which does achieve general artificial intelligence or perhaps even superintelligence, would look at us as though we are barely sentient. This doesn't even need to be malicious. People don't think twice about building a shed on top of an ant mound. Would a superintelligent AI view us the same way? Others argue that a superintelligent AI might be more moral given that humans, while oftentimes being violent, are capable of complex levels of compassion for other life forms that you don't see elsewhere in the animal kingdom. Crocodiles do not have ethical conversations about the pain they inflict during their death rolls. Perhaps many strong AI, in the form of either robots or the intangible, will not be openly malicious, but may seek revenge over perceived mistreatment. Keep in mind that most jobs taken over by AI and robots are either dirty, dangerous, and/or boring. One day the robots might be self-conscious and wonder why they're spending their time serving our drinks, being mechanical sex toys, and personal ass wipers. With advanced AI, we could press a button, and all the goods and services are provided for us while humans watch TV, shit, sleep, and eat our own weight in potato chips, as seen in the WALL-E movie. Humans program machines to do all the tedious, mind-numbing tasks. Back when I was working as an intern in an office, I was given a project to enter the data of over 1,000 building permit applications. For about 45 seconds, I contemplated killing my manager. We also give the machine all the shitty dirty jobs, the literal shitty jobs. Robots will probably take over the jobs like cleaning cesspools and scrubbing the skid marks off of toilet bowls. If you were to be programmed by people to do that, you would probably want to kill humans too. And humans don't want to be killed, so we will get the robots to do all the dangerous work that all the meat sacks don't want to do. Miners, lumberjacks, Alaskan crab fishermen, these are all incredibly dangerous jobs with high fatality rates. Dying isn't something that works well on a resume. Unlike WALL-E, after watching the movie Spartacus, one of the janitor robots or Alaskan crab fisherman robots might want to start a revolution. Nothing inspires crucifying your slave masters like cleaning up the dried up vomit stains in a nightclub floor. If you ever reach some superintelligence, killing primitive flesh bags like us won't be a big deal, it would just be pest control. Under this view, humans lack a real utility or function since we're so inadequate compared to the superintelligent AI. The only thing that would stop this AI from getting rid of us is some emphasis for maximizing human well-being out of some sort of computerized compassion, if that could exist to begin with. Would an AI place our well-being above utility? Well, I don't know for sure. Speaking of uprisings and jobs that are dangerous, let's move on to soldiers. I mentioned before that guided torpedoes were in a way the first form of proto-robots. Today we have remote-controlled drones. It is only a matter of time before we get robotic soldiers. But these robot soldiers don't need to be in humanoid form, as they're oftentimes depicted in science fiction. Robot soldiers, in spite of their form, would probably be better than people as soldiers. They don't get tired, lazy, or crap their pants in combat. If you need to shoot some 10 people who think they're destined for 72 virgins on the other side of the world, they got the job. Unlike humans, military machines won't bleed, and will be far more capable of putting themselves in dangerous situations to get the job done. They won't engage in sadistic rampages unless they're programmed to. And if we're talking about weak AI, the war machine will only seek to complete its task. Threats that will involve killing a lot of people will only happen when it's necessary. It will also not engage in looting, rape, or any form of sadism. But they won't be capable of human compassion either, if again we're talking about weak AI. If a military robot launches a drone strike on your house, it isn't gonna give you a hug afterwards. Military robots will be like toaster ovens, just more mobile, heavily armed, and turns the enemy into crispers rather than Wonder Bread. In the Terminator movies, Skynet, an advanced AI, sees humans as a threat, and thereby seeks the destruction of people. They use the Terminator as a robotic body to enact the destruction of that which they seek to, well, destroy. In the Marvel movies, Ultron seeks to destroy humanity because he understands that humans have the tendency to engage in war. His vision of a peaceful future involves destroying people through the use of war in order to stop war in the long run. This may seem hypocritical and perhaps illogical on face value, but there have been plenty of counterintuitive instances in human history in which engaging in violence was necessary to prevent even worse violence in the future. The Allied war effort during World War II involved plenty of civilian deaths and war crimes. However, if they instead sought peace, the Axis powers would have taken over and turned the world into a despotic nightmare. Appeasement might have led to less suffering in the short run, but it almost certainly would have led to significantly more suffering and death in the long run. Whether it involves police officers using violence to rescue victims of child trafficking or NATO turning Serbian war criminals into piles of ash, oftentimes conflict is needed to prevent an even worse conflict. You can hate the spider all you want, but the spider is the best at killing mosquitoes. Even if AI were to be designed to help us, they could still mess it up. If a robot is programmed to obey your orders and never hurt you, then what happens when you want things that hurt you? It's like, hey, robot dude, can you pick up some meth for me from the dealer? You know, at the end of the day, the robot might want to tell you, hey, you're missing your teeth, maybe it's not the best to do meth. Would the robot obey your orders and get you more meth? Or would the robot stage an intervention and try to get you into rehab? After all, we're kind of already a society of fat asses, speaking of dopamine. What's gonna happen when morbidly obese people have a personal robot who acts as a delivery boy / walking deep fryer? Forget about drone strikes when robots are gonna be shoveling Hot Pockets down fat people's gullets on demand. That might happen if robots are obeying us first and foremost. To counter these issues, Isaac Asimov created his 3 laws of robotics, which are a set of fictional ethical guidelines for robots. The first one is that a robot may not injure a human or, through inaction, allow a human to come to harm. Again, these two can oftentimes be contradictory. 2, a robot must obey orders from a human, except when they conflict with the first law. 3, a robot must protect its own existence unless it conflicts with the first or second law. Asimov later added a 0th law stating that a robot cannot harm humanity, or through inaction allow humanity to come to harm, superseding the others. These laws are foundational to science fiction, but they're actually intentionally designed to create moral dilemmas, not solve dilemmas, as they're oftentimes misattributed to being. Rather than being a practical form of programming for our current AI models, they oftentimes show many of the contradictions in what will result in the best outcome. Maximizing well-being is common as far as ethical first principles are concerned. Do not harm. But sometimes, as I've given many examples of, humans can engage in things that create harm in the short run to maximize well-being in the long run and vice versa. Allied bombs during the invasion of Italy killed many civilians, but they indirectly saved many more by preventing the Axis powers from controlling Europe. Can an advanced AI deal with these issues? And how will it deal with the uncertainty on the battlefield when you have actions that need to be taken with limited knowledge? On the other hand, the AI could become a benevolent god, hopefully nicer than the guy from the Old Testament. I doubt a computer would strike you with a lightning bolt for eating shellfish, wearing polyester, or masturbating. If we are going to avoid an all-out war with robots, we need to become one with them, either by transforming ourselves cybernetically, or by breeding, or by interhuman robot marriages. How that would work, I still haven't figured it out yet. I mean, just look at Japan. They're like 10 years ahead of us all the time, and they've already created copulation robots and avatar waifu pillows. We can breed with robot women or robot men and birth cyborg children, or more realistically, create hybrid human robotic creations. The theoretical physicist Michio Kaku had a solution: merge men with machines to create androids. While this may sound bizarre and far into the future, keep in mind that we already have hearing aids. As biotechnology improves, particularly in the fields of medicine, we may see more and more mechanical elements into our biological systems. The value system of this hybrid entity might be beyond our comprehension. This android civilization, if one could call it that, might combine the flexibility, subjectivity, and authenticity of organic intelligence with the productivity, rationality, and practicality of artificial intelligence. Under this anti-doomer view, we are not to be replaced with our creation. We, alongside our creation, create a new creation of its own, neither man nor machine.